Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan. Now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good God, I guess I'm on the air at this time. Good late morning to you folks, or early morning to you. It's midnight right here in the Central Time Zone. Thank you for tuning in with a special edition of True Conservative Radio. I'm your host, the man they call Ghost, and I thank you for tuning in with me. I was supposed to have a regularly scheduled program at about 9 p.m. Central Time. Excuse me. But unfortunately, when I attempted to log on to Blog Talk Radio, it kept giving me this malarkey that there was no audio servers in action or some kind of garbage like that. I just can't believe the amount of problems that I'm having here with the Blog Talk Radio network. All I want to do is broadcast and have some political commentary out here with the Blog Talk Radio listening community and beyond. And unfortunately, it seems like within the past 2 days, I've had more trouble with Blog Talk Radio than at any other time when I attempted to use this service. And I appreciate the service there, Blog Talk Radio Network. I appreciate the fact that you give us the opportunity, you allow us to broadcast at an unlimited potential. But at the very minimum, if you could just try to keep things afloat, if you will. I've had 2 consistent days of absolute garbage. Excuse me. I had to shut one of my what was it? I think it was the last broadcast I had. I had to completely shut it down because, nobody was listening to me. The damn switchboard went out. Then before you know it, people were running out of the chat room saying they couldn't hear me, saying they couldn't hear the live broadcast. And then I tried to log in today and do another broadcast at my regular scheduled programming time, and it gave me the same malarkey. Well, actually, it gave me different malarkey. What it did this time around, it said, well, we would like to connect to the servers, but all servers are down, or some ridiculous garbage like that. I kept trying to call back in, trying to do whatever it took, troubleshoot the best I could, and lo and behold, I couldn't get anything done, so that's why we're having this special edition. This is the midnight hour, folks, and, I don't even know if anybody really can hear me. I mean, to be honest with you, Blog Talk Radio has had so much problems. I don't know if I'm just sitting over here, blowing out my blowhole here to an audience of none because of all the problems on the Blog Talk Radio network, but I do know that the last show was archived, so I'm just going to continue on whether I'm talking to myself like a dumb jagoff or there's actually folks out there listening to me. We're going to continue this show, all right? We're going to continue this show. I don't know what's going on here. We're having a few people in the chat room. They're saying they can hear me. I'm glad because Blog Talk Radio has been giving me nothing but problems. But let's go beyond that. I wanted to continue forth on some conservative political talk. This has been some interesting political times that we've been witnessing out here. Unfortunately, what we have out here is we have the Democrat debates, and I don't think anybody went for the jugular. I know that Hillary Clinton attempted to on a variety of different topics, one of them including his lack of record and him being all a bunch of rhetoric as opposed to actual action and that sort of thing. But I'm telling you, folks, I know, and this is why I've taken the Republican out of my name, because I know that the Republican Party has been hijacked by liberals. But I'm going to get to that in a moment. But what's happening here in the Democratic Party is something very serious, especially those left-wing liberals that are out here being inspired by a bunch of, actually, I have to agree with Hillary rotten Clinton about Obama. It's all a bunch of rhetoric. I mean, the man is really no action. He has no, kind of record to run on other than the fact that he's a good speaker. Or like one woman who called my show a while back said that the reason she's voting for him because of Barack Obama has nice teeth. You know, this is what's inspiring the Democrats to vote. But let me tell you what the problem is going to be. It pretty much looks like, according to polls, but, you know, who in the blue hell could really give any kind of credence to polls at this point? But the polls show that Hillary Rotten Clinton has the lead in Ohio. And I'm down here in Texas, folks, and I've had the unpleasure of actually seeing Hillary Rotten Clinton in my hometown. Same with Barack Obama. They've all been out here pandering. They've all been, you know, talking out both sides of their mouth. But the bottom line is, folks, and I've been saying this all along, even though people out there are hopping on the Obama bandwagon, if you will, I honestly believe that everybody is underestimating the slime bag Clinton machine. Because I think what's going to happen here, folks, and it's very dangerous, at least for the Democrats. It's good for us. Well, I don't know if I could speak for Republicans anymore because I've renounced the Republican Party for being a damn liberal piece of trash, but let's get back to that in a moment. I think it's going to be very serious for the Democrats here because I believe that there's going to be an under-the-table brokered election here. I think that the nomination is going to be brokered. Now, I know that this new ridiculous communist-style, primary election, I don't even know what to call the Democrats and how they elect their nomination, their presidential nominee, folks, but this whole superdelegate garbage. And I'm not too sure if you're familiar with this superdelegate garbage. I really don't want to give a lecture on it because I could care less, but the bottom line is that you've got these, you know, just like the title suggests, they're super people in the Democratic Party that could literally go against their own Democratic primary and caucus votes. You understand it? I mean, they could literally just turn the tides. Obama could legitimately win the popular vote, and these superdelegates could all be in the pocket of Hillary Rotten and the Clinton machine, all right, and could turn the tides. And on top of which, this is words, of course, on the political circuit, it has been suggested that you have Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton giving personal phone calls to not only these superdelegates, but actual delegates that have already been spoken for by the primaries and caucuses. I mean, they're actually calling these folks, the Clinton machine. They're calling delegates that have already been spoken for by the voters, and they're going to try to sway them at the convention to turn their vote into the Clinton machine. And this is what I'm saying about the Democrats. I think this is going to be very, very interesting from a political observer's perspective. I think it's going to be very interesting on what is going to happen this Democratic election. I think you're going to have a war here. And I think the Democrats are just, mesmerized with nothing but a bunch of rhetorical hysteria. And that's what everybody is, galloping up on. They're just galloping up on it like, they're riding into the sunset. Anyway, I wanted to thank, Stoke Chris coming into the room. How you doing? And I wanted to thank each and every one of you for tuning in with me, folks. Once again, we've been having major problems with the Blog Talk Radio Network. I think they've been trying to silence me, to be honest with you. I think they've been trying to shut me up. But we've been having convenient problems every time I attempt to broadcast. But I wanted to just make everybody aware, specifically those folks on the left that always listen to me and write me all this ridiculous hate email. I want y'all to know that y'all are headed for trouble. Okay, this could be a brokered nomination right underneath your liberal, tree-hugging, save-a-whale, environmentalist nut-job noses. I mean, this could be brokered right underneath your noses. And you idiots don't even know it because you're so anesthetized with so much liberal propaganda. It is completely, just taken out the whole concept of critical thinking out of your psyche. You know it, and I know it, and anybody, who's a political observer with any type of rational thought knows it too. But the bottom line is that, the Democrats are having problems. I thought that the debates were going to be a little bit more interesting than I saw yesterday evening, which I was conveniently cut off yesterday's show, and I'm sorry for those folks that just lost the broadcast signal. This is Blog Talk Radio Network problems, so send your emails directly to them, please. But, you know, I was expecting more fireworks. I mean, I thought that Hillary was going to go for the jugular. And what was even more interesting is I was waiting for Barack Obama. If Hillary really took one of those swings to the jugular, he would have brought up the NAFTA. I mean, I thought that was an interesting debate. You know, as a political observer, looking at the Democrats' ridiculous race for the nomination, I think it's really interesting that we've got Barack Obama against NAFTA, which was, of course, the brainchild of the Clinton machine. And NAFTA, of course, now that we can look back in retrospect, it sent out a lot of American jobs to to foreign soil. It only perpetuated the already depleting of the means of production and having them exported outside of America. It only helped facilitate that at an even faster rate. And I'm glad that Obama's actually throwing NAFTA in Clinton's face. I mean, I think it's a good debate. But I recently saw a little stump speech of old Hillary Rodham Clinton in Ohio. And, of course, now, you know how Clinton, or Hillary Rodham Clinton is. She talks out of four sides of her mouth. She's backtracking off NAFTA. You know, and I'm paraphrasing what I heard at the stump speech, and you can YouTube it if you'd like. I'm not suggesting YouTube for any commercial reasons. If you have another video content source to go to that one, because we don't need to be supporting these ridiculous multinational corporations that run our media, that are basically feeding us nothing but political theater and not giving us the actual facts and not utilizing the power of suggestion that is held by this media, not utilizing the power of suggestion to suggest to most Americans, why don't we talk about issues and views about America, American interests, the American economy, American jobs, the American Constitution. Let's talk a little bit about that, but of course, you don't. And anyway, I don't mean to get off on that tirade there, but I want these candidates to start talking about Americans. I mean, what did you hear most debated on last night's debate with the Democrats, these ridiculous communists? What did you hear most often? Their universal health care plan. And I also thought it was interesting. Let me tell you, this Obama, even though he's a bunch of rhetorical garbage, he's kind of a melodramatic intellectual, so to speak, when it comes to the debating field. I mean, he was a lawyer, folks, so he knows how to split hairs just like old Slick Willie, Bill Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, she doesn't know how to split hairs like that. Are you kidding me? I mean, that fake smile that that ridiculous. Every time I look at Hillary Rodham Clinton's smile, it makes the ham and cheese sandwich want to come back up that I ate about an hour previous. It's that fake, disingenuous smile, and then that cackle. That cackle. I don't even want to describe it. Any of you folks know about it. You know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, I suggest to go try to find an audio or a video, and all you got to do is search for Hillary cackle, and you'll hear it. Let me tell you something. It'll scare the hell out of a bird load full of buzzards. But anyway, the bottom line is, folks, is that the Democrats are headed for trouble. Okay, and then now we're going to flip the coin and talk about the Republicans here in America. Now, who do we have as the Republicans, which has made me absolutely sick to my stomach? It's probably given me a damn ulcer, for Christ's sake. I guess that's why I find it harder and harder to take a dump nowadays, because I'm so disgusted that the Republican Party has been hijacked by liberals and have embraced John McCain blindly. All right? But let's look at the Republican political landscape, shall we? We have this New York Times story alleging some really, really unscrupulous activities, okay? And this is, of course, alleged, but the McCain camp really hasn't done much as far as damage control is concerned to kind of, extinguish the fire that this particular little article in the New York Times is generated. I mean, Bill Bennett, who is the attorney for John McCain, doesn't want to confirm or deny if they had a sexual relationship. Of course, you know, McCain right off the bat came out saying we didn't have a romantic relationship. You got to look at, remember, you got to look at language for the literal meaning, folks. You can go look up romantic in the dictionary, and we have a billion, or not a billion, maybe a million online dictionaries. Go look it up. But anyway, I'm not really, well, I'm pretty disgusted. I mean, I wasn't surprised when I knew that John McCain was a philanderous, ridiculous, immoral piece of trash like Bill Clinton. It didn't really surprise me. I knew he was a social liberal. You can look back in the archives, folks, because every one of my shows have been archived, and I've been saying this from day one. So it didn't surprise me that, you know, he was out here, you know, banging lobbyists. All right, it didn't surprise me one bit. But what surprised me is the unethical activity that's allegedly around this whole supposed sexual relationship. And let me tell you something, folks, it's a real deal breaker for McCain as far as him being a nominee for the Republican presidential candidacy. This is a real deal breaker. And I hope that every reporter on all facets, whether it's independent magazines, whether it's big periodicals, newspapers, you know, TV journalism, radio journalism, I hope people are going to get to the bottom of this. Because I'm telling you, folks, these Republicans out here are telling people like me, true conservatives, and they've been telling me over and over, they've been having whole shows dedicated to yours truly on the Blog Talk Radio Network because I'm a true conservative and not going to vote against my principles by voting for John McCain. And I've advocated it, and I've stated my position. I said I'm not going to vote for anybody in the presidential nomination or whoever the presidential for the presidential voting. I'm not going to vote for any president is what I'm suggesting, folks. What I'm going to do is just worry about my local government, my state representation, my government, or my state government. Go try to, you know, elect true conservatives that believe in the American Constitution, that believe in the American way of life, believe in trying to bring forth economic prosperity in America. Those are the things that I'm concerned about. That's what I want to know. But back to this McCain subject, folks. This McCain, what's alleged around this banging lobbyist little scandal that he's involved in, there's some real unscrupulous, I would say beyond unethical activity around this relationship. You know, I just think that this is definitely a deal breaker. And if you're a Republican, and it doesn't matter what Republican you are, I know that most Republicans at this point have just completely converted to liberalism. All of them have tried to force me to vote for John McCain blindly. All of them have just suggested that I'm against the troops, I'm against this country, I'm a moron because I don't vote for John McCain. The bottom line is, folks, is because I knew this the whole time. I knew that this man was a despicable, power-hungry, social liberal. I said it, and you can look back in my archives, and I said it. All right? The bottom line is, folks, is that I knew that this was, I smelt the stench right off this man. And what did these Republicans out here try to do? They tried to chastise me. They spread slanderous lies about me. They put personal attacks on me because I wouldn't vote for John McCain. I didn't say I was going to vote for any of these ridiculous, like Barack. I'm not going to vote for Barack Obama. I'm not going to vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton. I'm just not going to vote for the presidency because, look, I told you folks so. All the Republicans that chastise me, that just put personal attacks at me, I told you, and I have yet to hear an apology from any of those people that chastise me for not voting for John McCain. As a matter of fact, I think this is a deal breaker, folks. If what is alleged in this ridiculous article written by the New York Times, if what is alleged comes to be truthful, this is a deal breaker, And I think that us as conservative Republicans, we can take back control of the party like we've always had. We can take back control of the party from these social liberals that try to shove McCain down our holes. We can go and try to instill a true conservative Republican in the Republican presidential candidacy, and I think that he'd have a viable, beyond viable, I think he'd be a shoe-in to win this election. We don't need to submit to liberalism to win an election. We just need to start talking about what the conservatives used to be about. It used to be about the Constitution. It used to be about less government in our faces, less regulation, less taxes. That's what the Republicans and the conservatives used to be about. Now I have no idea what they're about. I think people are just, bowing down to party loyalty out here. I've been accused for betraying the party because I wouldn't vote for John McCain. We haven't even voted yet, first of all. But I told you, folks, that this is a liberal. Just look at his past legislation. Look at all the legislation with his name on it. He wants to put more government bureaucracy, more government in our faces. He wants to raise taxes. And this is not what we need. And at this point, if what is in this New York Times article, and it's been all over the media, folks, and the McCain campaign has not done anything to extinguish this fire generated by this scandal, they have not done a thing. On the contrary, they've only done more to ask more questions. And I think that this is a deal breaker and I'm hoping that every true journalist is out there trying to get to the bottom of this. If this is a lie, if the New York Times, if it comes to flourish that the New York Times did some unscrupulous activities to blatantly lie about a man's personal life, well, they'll be dealt with accordingly. And I'm sure that the government will have something to do with it because, that's the equivalent of yelling fire in a theater. But I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that there may be some type of, validity to what's going on in the McCain campaign. If you read into it and try to elaborate, read into more about this lobbyist, what she's done, who she's affiliated with, and take a look at the legislation related to the companies that pay her for her lobbyist consultant or their lobbyist services, let's put it that way. You just take a look at all that. I'm not suggesting anything. I want you to do your own research, but if you take a look at it, it doesn't look very good, folks. This is definitely a deal breaker. All right? This is a deal breaker. Absolute deal breaker. Anyway, folks, I want to hear from you. All right, this is an interesting political landscape right now. If you're a Republican, I'd like for you to give me a call right now and tell me what you're thinking. If you're going to be blinded and make excuses for John McCain for this philanderous activity, I'd like to know on what basis you're doing that and why you're doing it. And if you don't, let's talk about who we can possibly nominate as a Republican presidential candidate that'll actually win this election against these communist liberals that are out here wanting to give out handout health care, that want to just simply turn this country, this great country of ours, into a quasi-socialist communist government. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call right now. I want to hear some of your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts right now on what you think is going on out here. Do you think this is right? Think what this is going on here is right? I think the bottom line is, folks, is we need a new candidate, all right, a very good candidate that will bring order, all right, in the world here, okay? Not only order in the world, but bring in some sort of economic stability. And I'm not talking about artificially. This stimulus package is something that I just completely disagree with George W. Bush on, okay? This is just something that is a slippery slope. Now, I know why he did it. He did it because of political reasons. It's pure political. He understands that we're in an economic pickle right now. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be damn hard to come out of it once the crap really hits the fan, so to speak, folks. But he doesn't want to have the economic collapse happen on his watch. So, and this is my view, I think he did this purely politically, because right now everybody's, starting to get some of those tax returns back. Some of those people went right to one of these ridiculous little tax firms that take about 20% of your money just for you to have the damn thing up front. Anyway, regardless, people are getting these tax returns, okay, and they're going out and they're spending money, and it should appease them till about, let's say, May. And then what's going to happen in May? This is when this economic stimulus package is actually going to, implement itself on the American economy. So what's going to happen there? Well, those, if they're not imbecilically stupid, they will have at least a little, maybe a very small portion of the tax return. They're going to combine that with the economic stimulus check that's going to be cut out to everybody in May. That's going to appease them until about maybe after the summer. And what the supposed economic geniuses that wrote this stimulus package are anticipating, they're anticipating that all that money that's being spent is going to, create more jobs around the time of the holidays. And you see, that's when the election's going to happen, folks. That's when the jobs, and we're going to see a steady upstream in jobs, folks, because, the more people are buying, the more people have money, they're going to go out spending. They need service people, they need bag people, all that garbage. But what's going to happen, folks, is that once the holidays are over and the nominee or whoever the new president's going to be, that's when the economic crap is going to hit the fan, folks. It's going to hit the fan, and I don't think America's ready for it. And this is what I think these candidates need to start talking about. All right, we need to start talking about how right now, what can we do right now to not only create American jobs, but to spawn entrepreneurship that'll stay here in America. I think that the American government needs to approach these multinational corporations and basically start asking them where their loyalty lies. I think we need to start boiling down to, hey, we need to worry about the American interest. Right now, we consume more than we produce, which is unprecedented. I mean, you people need to understand, you don't need to be a brilliant intellectual to understand economics out here. All right, we are consuming more than we're producing, and that's a recipe for disaster. During the Great Depression, we were actually still producing, folks. All right, I mean, the Great Depression didn't happen because of the situation we're in now. It actually happened based on a lot of hysteria. And remember, during the Great Depression, we were actually producing products. We were producing products out here. Now, just imagine right now when the hysteria really hits the fan, because believe me, it can happen any day. All it takes is, the media stirring something up, people taking money out their banks. The banks aren't going to have enough money to dish out to the folks closing their accounts. It could all happen tomorrow. But you people just don't understand the serious situation we're in. And this is why the Democrats are supposedly winning, because they're talking about handouts. They're talking about, hey, don't worry about it. We'll give it to you. Well, you won't hand out health care? Well, here, we'll give it to you. You want money to spend? Here, there you go. Hey, here's some money for you. Go get drunk. Go do whatever you do. Feed your damn face like a damn garbage disposal. All right, do what you have to do. This is not what we need, folks, and people need to start talking about these political issues with everybody they know, their friends, their family. They need to understand that this garbage about this slippery slope we're going on, specifically based on this universal health care garbage, we don't need the government giving us anything. You know what we need the government to do? They need to lead. All right, we put them there. What they need to do is start worrying about the Americans' interest, okay? They need to start worrying about stabilizing and creating a good economic landscape for America. Because I tell you, folks, and I know it's getting harder to believe because we have a media that's also embracing this entitlement generation, who believe that we should just go ahead and give everything to everybody. We got a media that's embracing this garbage too. But to be honest with you folks, most folks don't want things given to them, all right? They want the ability to go out and work and to generate their own living, to maintain their own sustenance and at the same time have a little bit left over to enjoy life with. That's all people want out here, all right? People don't want, everything given to them, and I know it's hard to believe, folks, but let me tell you, it's because of this media that's embracing this entitlement generation. And it's absolutely sick, and none of the candidates right now, none of the presidential candidates are talking about it at all. And I want to know what you feel about it. 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. And we're going to go ahead and take a call. 816, you're on the air.
Yes, the entitlement generation. When did that start?
I don't know. Well, you tell me. When did it start?
Well, why is everybody so... Why do they feel they're so entitled to it?
Well, because that's the way the government has built this system, this humongous bureaucracy. Okay, and if you want my personal opinion, if that's what you're asking, I think it goes back to that closet communist, FDR. All right? I mean, it's the remnants of his mess is the reason why we have this kind of ridiculous entitlement generation, this closet communist. And I don't even want to get into my views on that, but the bottom line is that that's why I believe that's the root of it right over there.
How old are you?
I'm old enough.
You're not going to tell me how old you are?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you should read the amount of hate mail I get. I mean, people want my head on a platter, sir, just because because of my politics.
Because of your age?
No, because of my politics. All they need, hey, this is the new digital generation, sir. All you need is an age, a first name, and before long, these idiots are making credit cards out of you.
Well, I don't hate you. I just wanted to know how old you were. How old are you? About 40?
Well, I'm old enough, but I'm old enough to know that we're heading down a socialist communist path here, and if nobody starts talking about these issues, we're going to see it. This entitlement generation where everybody feels that they don't need to work anymore. The government can go ahead and give them their money to go out. It's like lab rats running to a food pellet.
What's your job?
What's my job? I own companies, sir. I have a few conglomerates of my own, but I wasn't given that. I wasn't bequeathed that. I had to work a good 20 years and get my nails dirty, just like everybody else in America should be doing. And then I made my money work for me. I understand the free market system. I understand capitalism, and that's all there is to it. Why do you think you got immigrants coming over here working for, maybe $2 an hour, $1.50 an hour? They eat a bowl of rice a day, and within 3 years, these idiots are owning stores and stuff. Because it's that easy in America.
No, I don't disagree with you on that. The whole illegal immigrant system was built up by people like you that own conglomerate systems that want to bring that cheap labor pool in here.
Let me tell you something, sir. I do not hire illegal immigrants. Don't infer that. Let me tell you something. I've been on this program saying that all the CEOs, small business owners, everybody who is caught hiring illegal immigrants should be thrown in jail.
Well, that's why they're here. They're a cheap pool of labor for Tyson and other companies like that who claim they work and do jobs that no one else would do. Well, I'd cut up a chicken if somebody'd pay me $14 an hour to do it, but they're not going to do it. And so when you tell me that you're owner of a conglomerate, I think you're part of that same system.
No, what I mean by a conglomerate, sir, is that I have a company. I started off with one company a long, long time ago. I reinvested in several different ventures, which, is basically different companies, not in the same industry. The only thing is that I incorporated all under a single name, and I generate profits from the services that are rendered through my businesses. Now, I think anyone can do that. I just think people need to stop buying the $4,000 or $5,000 plasma screen TV, the $50,000, $60,000 car they know they can't afford, the $350.
Those are made in Mexico.
What?
Those are made in Mexico now by the very people that have been brought in by this system.
Believe me, I've been talking about that. I've been talking about that the whole time. I've been saying we needed to get these 20 million illegal immigrants that are devaluing the cost of labor. We need to get them the hell out. Get them out. Not only that, we need to close our borders. We need to start
exporting. We are exporting that labor as well. That labor used to be in this country. We are exporting that labor over to India. You would be flabbergasted.
No, hey, I've been against that, sir, and you want to know why we're participating in lopsided trade deals? Is because these bureaucrats that we send to Washington are signing these lopsided trade deals that don't help perpetuate American production and manufacturing on the global scale.
And these aren't Republicans or Democrats. They're all doing that.
I agree.
They're both doing that. No one is fighting against it. Not a Republican nor a Democrat is fighting against the system.
Why do you think I'm up here? Why do you think I'm up here saying I'm a true conservative? I'm not voting for McCain. I'm not voting for these communists on the left. I don't know who to vote for. I think the conservatives that really believe in the American Constitution, the American Constitution.
I think the thing that leads people astray with this whole conservative issue is the social part. And the social part has a role in God's earth, and we all love God and we all love Jesus, but it all is so separate from what's going on that we've become divided, that we cannot think that Jesus would support a labor person, and we can't think that Jesus would support a conservative because he wants to protect his financial interests. And so we've been divided by the religious part of it, and we've forgotten that the real issue is what is happening to the American worker, and he has been destroyed. And in the process, it's all been divided into a social issue when it's all about what's happening to our dollar bill.
Sir, I don't know if you've been listening to this program, but I talk about that on a daily basis, and I get criticized by my own. That's why I took the Republican out of the name of the show. It used to be called True Conservative Republican Radio. And all these issues that you're bringing up, I bring them up on a daily basis because we need to talk about these issues that you're talking about right now, the exporting of the American jobs, and all the jobs that are lost due to these ridiculous lopsided trade deals. You have these displaced workers having to compete in a job market with 20 million illegal immigrants that are devaluing the cost of labor. It's unfair. None of these candidates are talking about it, and that's why I talk about it.
You know, Ronald Reagan was God's savior on earth. He destroyed the trade union, and the trade union is what made America great. And granted, they went too far at times, but the trade union is what made the American worker great, and now they are looked at as pinko communist values.
Are you talking about union laborers? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, union labor.
So you like unions?
I like unions. They did good things for this country, but they went too far, and they got involved with organized crime, and they got an ugly name. They have a place in this society. Okay,
now, I'm glad you acknowledge that, because every time I've had the union debate with somebody who's pro-union, I mean, they don't acknowledge the fact that it got completely obnoxious, out of control. And
it was. And so has it gone the other way. There's a happy medium in there. And right now, the American worker has been trashed, and there's a happy medium that the union can meet without the organized crime aspect. And I do not doubt that you could tie religion and Jesus with the American union because he would support a hard worker. And I do not doubt.
Okay, now, since you brought the union issue up, now, do you believe that it's the union's right to extort money out of a company, okay, based on a menial job? For instance, do you think, I mean, and this is what the corporate argument is for the reason of the exportation of jobs, on top of the high tax rate here in America, they talked about, and this is the debate, and I'm just going to give you their perspective. I'm not saying I believe it or I embrace it.
What's going to happen? The unions will rise up overseas, and they will come like they did here, strong. They will be strong, maybe stronger than what we ever had. It's it may be outside of our lifetimes, that the workers deserve a fair wage for a hard day's work.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting around to ask you, sir. That's what I'm getting around to ask you. Do you believe that it is fair for somebody that's working in an assembly line, saying, you know, let's say they put the tails on the ass of a Pokemon in an assembly line or something? Do you think it's fair that union can extort? You know, what is it? Maybe, man, the last union job I remember, somebody with an assembly line job, this was some time back, they were making a good $60,000 a year, and this was many, many years ago, and that was a pretty good living considering all they were doing was some menial job. Now, and the reason they got it was because of the unions. They extorted the money out of the corporations. And I think that gives the corporations, I'm not saying it's right either, I think that the American worker should be, you know, bestowed respect upon, but to extort money like that and to be able to utilize their method of power, which is unions, to basically say, okay, we can work when we want, we can work as hard as we want for how much we want. I mean, that's just dictatorship. That's borderline communism, sir.
Well, I agree. It went too far the other way. That there's a happy medium in there somewhere. And I do not think that $60,000 a year is crazy when you compare it to $17 million a year or whatever Bill Gates is making. What is the value of a hard-working man? And where does the standard exist? There's a happy medium in there somewhere.
Well, you know,
right?
Sir, we're based on capitalism. I mean, you get what you put in. I mean, you know, look, if you're a man
how hard is a hard day's work, in your opinion? What man's worth? How does he make himself worth $60,000 a year? Does he turn the screw right? Does he sweat enough? I mean, where is it? I mean, there is a happy medium in there somewhere, and I don't think that the millionaires should be establishing that. It should be somewhere in between. And I agree, the unions went too far. But there is a place in between, and the blue-collar man is gone. He does not exist in this country.
Well, I can agree to that. I can agree to that.
There's no man making $40,000 a year doing any job. He's either making $100,000 a year, or he's making $5 an hour. There's nowhere in there anymore. So we went that way. We tried that. Reagan wiped out the union workers in the air traffic control industry. We tried that. If that didn't work either.
Hold on, sir. I think we've got another caller that may disagree with you here. 516, you there?
Yes, how you doing? It's the Ozone.
How you doing, Ozone? I'm sure you disagree with this gentleman here.
Absolutely. Basically, we want to pay everyone as much as possible, but the value of your work is determined in only one way. Is someone willing to pay you? If someone's willing to pay you $60,000, that's the only proof that your work is worth $60,000. You can't say that your work is worth $60,000 a year if you can't find anyone to pay you, and the only way you can do it is having a union, blackmail basically companies. That's what I believe.
So what do you have to respond to that there?
If you believe the union is blackmail, I can't convince you otherwise. All I can convince you, I mean, we used to believe that black people don't have a mind. We used to think, well, if a black person can't come up here and work, I don't have to pay him. And somehow we've come.
Well, we don't need to go. We don't need to go back to that paradigm. I mean, we're obviously evolved.
Back to that period.
We've evolved since then, sir.
Yes, we have evolved, and now we pay him $6 an hour.
Sir, you get what the market demands, and now right now I'll agree with you that the market is pretty bad. I mean, America doesn't produce anything. All we produce is entertainment and cheeseburgers, and that's not going to pay very much. That's why I say that we need a politician that's in the presidency and in the House and the Senate. We need these people to make an economic landscape comparable to making more jobs, entrepreneurship, investment. We need jobs here in America for folks so they can take care of their families, so they can take care of what needs to be taken care of.
So what do we produce here now? That may well be the topic we need to discuss. Where do we go forward? Because the past has led to nothing but these kind of opinions that, if you can't prove yourself worth $60,000 a year, you don't deserve to earn it. Well, what happened to people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison that were probably worth $2 a day, if that, and turned into million-dollar enterprises? I mean, nobody's...
Well, that's because they were innovative minds, though, sir. They were innovative minds. They created products that people wanted. It's all about supply and demand. It's what it is. I mean, you have to understand how the market works.
Okay, so where's the demand?
Well, there is, to be honest with you, right now in America, there is demand. People are consuming. The problem is that nobody is, trying to inspire any type of innovation or entrepreneurship that will make American money being spent here in America and not on Chinese goods, not on being the middleman. You see, most of the entrepreneurial businesses right now, and I know I'm in the Chamber of Commerce in my area, and I own businesses. The only businesses to create out here are basically third-man businesses. You take a product from a distributor, the distributor sells you this product, and it's usually made from some ridiculous third-world country, and you then pass on that to the consumer and make whatever you can get in that in-between time, that in-between handoff time. Now, you see, we need to produce something here in America.
What are we going to produce here?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that's why we need a president that understands these things. I think that what the president needs to do.
Why don't you tell me an idea?
Well, I don't know an idea. You see, I mean, I just know how to run businesses.
Well, somebody give me an idea. I mean, somebody must have an idea.
Well, the problem is, sir, is we need a president that's going to organize the greatest minds in America. He needs to have them at a convention of some sort, and have these minds, come together and say, okay, look, we need to bring America back on the economic forefront. We need to be the key innovators of the world. You bring these minds together, mathematicians, innovators, professors, all of American intelligence. You bring them all together, and the president will say, hey, we need something that's going to bring back America economically. Why don't you find a need, and provide a solution to that need, and then he'll get the fat cats together to see if he can get these people to spend money tax-free on these ideas.
We don't need fat cats. I mean, listen, you're yelling and screaming. I mean, what, you do something in your house. I mean, what does it take? Somebody has to know on a very basic level what it takes to get this country going. I'm not going to turn it over to John McCain. I mean, he doesn't inspire me. Neither does Barack Obama.
Well, hey, I'm there with you. I don't know what you want to hear from me, sir. I mean, I'm there with you. I'm not voting for John McCain. I'm not voting for Barack Obama. All I can do is use mediums like the medium that I'm on currently to try to spawn debate on subject matters that affect America as American people.
I mean, you have an idea of spawning debate, right?
Yeah, I just posed a scenario to you, and it sounds to me, with all due respect, sir, you've gotten a little too close to a bottle of beer, and it's gone over your head.
Well, I mean, you have an idea in your head of what needs to be done, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, say it.
I've said it already. I said that the president needs to be an orchestrator of sorts.
Say what you need to do.
What?
Say what you need to do, despite my drunkenness. Say what you need to do.
What are you talking about, what I need to do? What are you talking about?
What do you need to do?
Sir, can you be a little bit more clear here? I mean, I know that you're dealing with a little bit of an inebriated mind here, but you need to be a little bit more elaborate.
What do you need to do?
Oh, man, I feel like I'm talking to E.T. here, sir. Do you have anything else to say, sir?
No, so what he's saying is that you said what the president should do and gather all these people.
I already told him. I mean, didn't he not hear me? I told him already.
He's asking what you personally should do. I think that's what he's asking.
What I should do in what sense? In what sense? If I were the president, or what I should do now as an American? I mean, what are you talking about?
Something like that, I guess.
Well, do you have anything else to say there, 816? We know you sound like you're about to, fade off into the magic dragon oblivion.
Well, that's a nice undercut. Sounds really clever. But what do you need to do? Why don't you answer that question? You sound flabbergasted.
Well, I don't understand in what context, sir. You're just saying, what do you need to do? You sound like Barack Obama when he says, change, we need change.
Quit screaming, all right?
Well, get elaborate, because I got a show to do here. We got an hour and 10, and we don't want to hear some drunkard nut job saying, what do you do? Explain to me in what context what I would do as if I was the president, what I would do as an American person, what do I do right now in the next hour, in the next minute, and what the hell are you talking about?
What are you going to do besides scream?
What I'm going to do is try to get to people that listen to me on a consistent basis to start thinking about things, okay? Maybe, sir, you need to put down the bottle of beer. You need to put it down, and maybe you need to pick up a book.
Now, beer is good for America. You've heard that before.
I'm sorry. I just have to hang up on this drunkard. I'm sorry. I usually don't click people off like that, but let me tell you something. Are you kidding me, Ozone, with this? Is this what happens here after midnight, a bunch of drunkards coming on? This man sounds like he just came off of a Chris Hansen To Catch a Predator, segment or something. What's going on here? I want to talk political debate, folks. And if you have some political debate, get on the horn right now, 646-652-4869. Hey, Ozone, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you think about the John McCain situation in this New York Times article? I never got your opinion on it.
Well, it's the New York Times, and they have basically no facts, no proof. Just someone said something, but, you got people saying they saw Elvis every day. You can't, and they can't run a story like that. But they just ran it for some reason, like they're worried that some other paper was going to run a story. I don't know what it is, but you cannot go and run with this story as if it's fact. You can't go.
Well, you have to agree, Ozone, that McCain is not doing much for damage control. You had Bob Bennett over here all over the media, and every media outlet saying that, he cannot confirm or deny whether McCain had a sexual relationship with the lobbyist in question.
Well, you can't confirm or deny millions of things. I can start a rumor here. I can just throw some names.
But this is this man's personal attorney, and that's the first thing the attorney would ask you is, hey, look, is this true? I'm about to go on national TV, be the mouthpiece for you. What the hell's true? What the hell isn't? And he, all McCain has said is that he didn't have a romantic relationship. Romantic relationship, if you look up the word romantic, completely different than banging a lobbyist. All right, it's way different than a sexual relationship. Granted, maybe he didn't have some sort of relationship liaison with this lobbyist, but and I'm not suggesting anything either, Ozone, but I've done my own research. I think it's very weird that this was a telecommunications lobbyist that basically had a lot of favorable congressional leanings, if you will, that was forefronted by McCain, and now to come out that this this lobbyist that he was having sexual affair with, or allegedly having a sexual affair with, was a telecommunications lobbyist. I just think that there's some fishy situation right there, Ozone, and I think that this is a deal breaker if this allegation turns out to be true, don't you think?
Well, until it's proven, all the congressmen, they are meeting with lobbyists, all the interests of society, they come to Congress to try to push their opinion, and it's Congress's job to listen to all the groups, even if they shouldn't be bored by them, but they have to listen to them. And look, unless there's proof, and I heard that the sources that the anonymous sources that they have are Democrats. You hear all that they call Bush a liar. Half the country thinks Bush is involved in 9/11. I need proof. Otherwise, it's reckless to go with a story like that, because you can say things about anyone and just run with it. You can just I can make up a story about two people and then people will hear it, and whether it's true or not, it's never proven, but the damage is done.
Well, you have to admit, though, Ozone, and I wanted to hear John McCain. You know, this is Mr. Straight Talk here. I wanted to hear him give me some straight talk about, you know, some answers behind this alleged activity. I mean, you know, beyond the sexual relationship, I mean, the allegations of unethical practice as far as him utilizing his Senate seat and a lot of commission chair positions to basically initiate legislation based on being around a bunch of lobbyists. And this is a man that is running on the fact, and it's not like the Clinton machine wasn't going to yank this out of the closet in the general election. And I just think that, you know, Ozone, you know, and a lot of people have been telling me to vote for John McCain, and I've stuck to my guns, and anybody who's kept up with the show or wants to listen to the archives will know that I've been consistent when I don't want, and I will not vote against my principles with John McCain. Now, and of course this is all alleged, Ozone. I just think that, you know, the media's run with it. John McCain hasn't really been too favorable about, you know, coming forth about his particular role in this whole scenario. And at the same time, you know, you got Bennett, which is his attorney, his personal attorney, not confirming or denying whether or not he had a sexual relationship. That's pretty much saying he did. I mean, because the attorney should have said, first and foremost, this is his client. He should know whether or not a sexual relationship was, you know, whether it did happen or didn't happen, and he's not confirming or denying it. He is saying that the premise of the article is untrue, but I don't know, Ozone. I'm just saying, if it comes to flourish that this man is what it is in this particular article in the New York Times, does the Republican Party continue to be blind and support this blatant liberal?
Well, we have to support, I think we have to support whoever the Republican nominee is, but as far as, did you see the speech with McCain and his wife? The press conference, he was answering questions, and he said, no, I didn't have any relationships, any kind of relationship with her, that he deals with.
He was very short with his answers, Ozone, and remember, this is John McCain, Mr. Straight Talk, okay? And look, I mean, maybe I have a bias because I believe this man is a closet liberal, that sort of thing, but, you know, words mean a lot, you know? And I think that, and regardless what Hillary Rotten Clinton wants to say about Obama, you know, words do mean a lot. And bottom line is that he was Mr. Straight Talk, and he's not straight talking about this situation. And I think it doesn't do him any justice. It doesn't do the party any justice. I think he's done enough damage to the party as it is with him being the nominee for president. I think what he needs to do is either come clean and say, look, this happened, this didn't happen, sorry, let's move on, or step down and allow somebody else to run for the Republican nomination.
I think that he answered the questions. I mean, if it's not true, then what more can he say? What can he say if it's not true? What is he going to say? I mean, I don't, start saying that he went to dinner with her.
Yeah, he needs to be a little bit more transparent on what actually happened. If there wasn't a sexual relationship, well, why was there legislation that was highly favorable towards the telecommunication industry initiated in his chair committees? And why were they passed? And why were they, fought for tooth and nail by John McCain? I'm not implicating him in anything. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying if you put it all together and you do a lot of research on all these characters involved in this scandal, it's very nefarious. It's not ethical. It's borderline illegal.
Well, if he's doing something that's not right or immoral or unethical, then he should be gone. But until there's proof, we can't just assume that it's true when there's no proof of it. We can't just assume it's true until it is proven. I'm not gonna go with New York Times story. I mean, especially New York Times. They spin reality on a daily basis. So I just don't know right now, and I don't really know enough about the whole details about what he did for the lobbyists' issues, but I think until there's proof of that, I can't believe it, especially for coming from New York Times. They just endorsed him not a month before. They endorsed him, and then So they endorsed him because they wanted him to win the nomination in the Republican side. But now that he's won it, basically they go out and put this story out.
Well, and look, I think that there is something unscrupulous on the New York Times end too. But if the story flourishes to be true, well, then I just think that we need a new candidate as far as the Republicans are concerned. And at this point, and I hate to say this, I don't want to bite my tongue, but I'd be okay with Romney if he came back.
Of course, Romney is much better.
I hate to say that, but I mean, I would be more. I mean, I would still need a drink after I went into the voting box, but I would feel a little bit more comfortable, given the reins to Romney, given his position on the immigration and on a couple of other issues. I was interested in a lot of the economic things he said in the debate. But I just think that and I think that journalists need to do their job, whether it's TV, radio, print journalists. They need to figure out if this is true, and it may open up to a whole new can of worms for McCain. I don't know, but I just think that what McCain needs to do, instead of just sitting here being short with the media and the people that are wanting to elect him, I think he needs to, be straightforward and say, look, this happened, this didn't happen, so on and so forth. But I'm glad to hear that you said, if it is true, this unethical activity, the sexual relationship aside, I just think that we need a new candidate, and I wouldn't be too unhappy with Romney at this point. Hate to say that, but
if we can get rid of McCain and get Romney nominated, I will throw a party.
And it's not, look, I'm not trying to say that I want McCain to fall. It's just, look, this would have came out, and we'll talk about the Democrat debates here in a second, but I just believe that the Clinton machine is going to win this nomination from the Democrats, whether they have to broker it under the table and go against the popular vote. These people are going to win this election, in my view, or this nomination, excuse me. But we need a candidate that's going to be able to withstand the Clinton slime machine. And I think that this John McCain garbage would have came out even at full throttle speed and even just harder of impact, if you will, during the general election as opposed to right now. And I think that the more and more McCain waits on answering and being straight talk, so to speak, McCain, and trying to be evasive about the whole premise of this situation, I think it's not only hurting his own chance for presidency, which I never thought he was going to win anyway, but it's hurting the Republican Party, and I think that he needs to either step up or step out. And that's my view. Are you still there, Ozone?
I'm still here.
Yeah, well, let's move on to another subject here. It's funny, we were talking about jobs earlier with that individual who got a little too close to a bottle of beer. It's funny that we're talking about jobs because I'm an employer, okay? And I know I'm going a little off topic here, but, it's just something that I wanted to share with the audience here. I wish I was able to broadcast at my normally scheduled time, but we've been having all kinds of problems with BTR. Have you been having any problems, Ozone?
Yeah, a lot of the shows today, there was no audio, for a lot of shows today there was no show, basically. I think they did it, it's recorded in archives, but I couldn't hear a whole bunch of shows today. Yeah,
I've just been having nothing but problems, so that's that's why I'm here such late at night, but since we got a late night crowd, we got a whole bunch of people in the chat room, and if you want to get to the chat room, you can go www.blogtalkradio.com/ghost. But I have a situation, okay? Now, I'm an employer, and I employ a lot of younger guys. I wouldn't say young in the sense of, being high schoolers or anything of that nature, but, a lot of fellers that are about, 24 to about 37. And, I try to be a good employer, and, try to take these fellows out on, meals, I don't make it a habitual thing, but, try to just instill the fact that I'm grateful for their service. But I came across one of the establishments that I run. I just went in there and, checked up on everything, made sure everything was okay. You'd like to leave everything into the managers of those particular establishments and hope that they run tight as a ship as you do, but that never happens. Anyway, the point is, I came across something in the back room area where the employees gather, eat their lunch, that sort of thing. And I've got and I confiscated it. It's actually some drugs, and I just wanted to see what everybody thought I should do about the young man I think brought the drugs in. It's marijuana. What do you think I should do as an employer? Do you think I should just fire the man? He's a good worker.
Right.
He's a good worker, but I just kind of just stumbled upon it, and I think I know who it is, but.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's tough. You don't want to fire any workers, but you gotta lay down the law. And make sure, whatever punishment you do, you have to make sure that you lay down the law that this will never happen again, and let all the employees know. Because now they're all watching. If they know that you found the drugs, now they're all looking. What's the boss going to do? If the boss doesn't do anything, who knows? I think that you got to be tough. If he's a good worker, give him a chance. But you got to be tough. Whatever you do, you got to be tough. Out of love.
Well, he's a good employee. He's been with me for about a year and a half or so. Never been late. Always did everything, to a proper standard. But you know what? I found this substance right here, and it's not a whole bunch. It's not like, they're pushing pounds out here. But, it's definitely a small amount, as if they're doing it on the job, maybe during their breaks or some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is that if I fire one person, there's a group of people that work at this establishment. I'm sure that the other people are participating in this activity too, right?
That's probably happening. Yeah.
So, because it was in an area where, it was like the public, or not really public, but the general area for the workers to, it's like kind of a semi-break room, kind of a place to eat their meals or whatever the case might be. And I found it, in an area by the little TV that we have out there for them. So, and you see that the only reason I'm suspecting one person is because, well, frankly, he's made references to the fact that he does participate in this activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is kind of a pickle here because, look, it is just, if it had been cocaine or something, I'd have fired everybody.
Right.
But this is just, this is a pickle here. You got to weigh the financial interest one has in running an operation that it always generates profits on a monthly basis. The ship is actually going to run properly if I keep this young man in the position that he's in. I don't want to get into detail what the business I'm in, but this is about, here, I got it right here, it's maybe about a couple of joints worth, I guess the equivalent of a couple of joints, and at the same time, I found what looked like some sort of a smoking device.
Maybe you should have a meeting with all the workers, if you're not sure even who exactly it is, you think you know, and just make a statement saying, I don't want this in my establishment. If next time I catch someone with this or find any evidence of this or use of this in my establishment, you're going to be fired, and use your voice, your strong voice that can intimidate some people, I'm sure. And I think, if you don't, you obviously have, but you don't want to hurt these people, but you want to keep control of your business.
Absolutely, and at the same time, it wasn't in, plain view, but it was by the TV. It's like, in the corner, kind of in a, high, pitched up high kind of thing, and I was just, checking out the TV, making sure everything works. So, if it's broken, I'll buy another one for the employees and whatnot. But then I found this little baggie here, and, like I said, it's maybe like the equivalent, I guess. I've never really smoked marijuana before. But I believe it's the equivalent of a couple of joints, and I found what looks like a smoking device. And I believe that, it's probably one specific employee, but since it's in that break area, I mean, do I accuse everyone of participating in this activity? I mean, it's very weird. And I think we got John on the line here. Are you there, John?
¿Qué pasa, Ghost? This is the famous John from Conversa Cuba Compañoni.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen, Ghost, man, we got to talk. Me and you got to talk, man. We got to talk because I don't believe what I'm listening to. I can't believe that the conservative Ghost is permitting this, marijuana extravaganza in his business. You got to fire the guy.
Well, you know what, John? I mean, I know it's him because he's made references to, because he doesn't believe that I'm in tune with the pop culture and that sort of thing, but I know what he was talking about.
Okay.
But just as long as, it wasn't in my business, but now it's in my business. But I found it not on him. I found it in an area where the employees congregate, and I'm just suspecting that it's him. But given that it's in the public, or not the public, but the employees kind of break lunch area, do I suspect all these people participating in this activity? Do all these people, whenever they take a break, go out to the back and, I guess smoke up or toke up or whatever it's called?
Well, listen, we had a very similar situation in the business that I run, and they were gone. They were gone. Their head was spinning. That's how fast I got rid of them. And this is what I did. I went and I reported them to the police.
Wow, you're not kidding.
No, listen. The communists have used drugs to destroy America for many, many years, especially through Cuba, now in Venezuela, Colombia. I take that as part of my war against liberalism, progressivism, and communism. So I don't use it.
No, I agree. I've never tried this stuff.
No, listen. When I was a kid, in my ghetto where I grew up, it was all around me. It just never appealed to me. Do you understand what I'm saying? If
I hear you.
If they had a bag and whatever, I'd rather have the beer. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I hear you.
Like, I'll have a beer instead or whatever. It just never appealed to me. Number one, because it was illegal, and you could get arrested up in New York City at that time if you were a kid. Number two, if the cops caught you with a beer or something like that, they just dump it and tell you to go home. And I didn't want to get beaten down to a pulp by my parents because I got arrested for having some kind of, marijuana or some other kind of drug. But let me give you a suggestion.
Okay.
If this man has spoken about drugs, this is what you have to think. If he has the nerve to leave a bag, an ounce or a half ounce or whatever he had, plus paraphernalia, which is his pipe, for all you know, he's dealing in the business. So let's say he made a drug deal somewhere, and he went back to your business, and let's say where he did the drug deal, they're watching him, let's say the police. They go back into your business, he's dealing out of your business. For all the police know, for all the law enforcement knows, they might think you're in it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, this is a very tricky thing when you have.
Yeah, you know what? It is. Believe me, it really is tricky.
Yeah, this is really tricky.
The thing about it is, you got to look at it from I'm a businessman. I'd have to possibly fire him and probably the person that's running that particular establishment because, I mean, he's supposed to be my eyes and ears out there. That's why I usually don't go out there very often. And
listen, you know what you got to do? I'll give you a good example, Ghost, being that I'm a ruthless capitalist Cuban exile that works 59 jobs and has 59 businesses. This is what you do. You take your intake. I don't know what kind of business it is, but whatever it is, you take your intake from that location, from the point of when you hired this manager and also when you hired this guy. And you do the numbers, you crunch them. And you will notice, and I bet you, that you will notice immediately that there is money, not missing, but there's less money being earned. Because if they're high, they're not giving you the same level of service. I mean, this is very easy to do. Now, you sound like a man of business. You always talk about your businesses. I mean, you don't even need your accountant to do this if you have the books yourself.
No, I usually do all the paperwork myself,
Okay.
with the exception of actually filing the return. I basically give everybody, You know, and because some of these accountants, you know, they read the damn tax laws every year, so
yeah.
They know what they're doing. They know how to, you know, make me not pay as much, if you will.
Yeah. Now, I know of people in one of my places that I do business with that there's one or two individuals that they, you know, use whatever products they use or whatever, but they keep that outside because if they get caught with any of that stuff anywhere in the business, they're fired automatically. There ain't no coming out of that. And it will affect your bottom line. It will affect your bottom line. I'm sure there are some workers in your area that will be happy to have that person's job.
Sure.
Who are not on drugs. And I know how you feel about illegal immigrants or whatever, aliens. But I'm sure if you hired any, there'd be 900 of them applying for that one job.
Yeah, believe me, I'm out here in Texas. I see it all the time. Believe me, I have to tell these people I need some documentation.
Yeah, they'll do it sober. They'll work for you sober. But I don't know, Ghost Man. I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this for you. I'm feeling nothing but misery and pain that this is going to cost you. And also, I don't know what kind of business it is again. But think of the liability issues. Let's say, whatever. If he's handling food, if he's handling, you know, some kind of machinery, if he's high, he could go ahead and hurt somebody. I mean, this is a huge, huge liability issue.
What do you think, Ozone?
Yeah, he has a lot of sense there because, you know what, maybe the best thing to do is to fire him. Maybe, you know, he's going to see I can't smoke and keep a job. Maybe he's going to set him straight.
Yeah.
At the pace now, if he stays, he keeps smoking, and, you know, he even got caught, he still kept his job. The guy might be smoking for 10 years, and others might do as well. If you stop him now, and you got to make an example. I think, you know, John makes a lot of sense. I'm compassionate. I always try to be compassionate. I care about everybody like myself, but John has good points there.
Okay, let me ask both of you a question. And by the way, for the audience that's tuning in out here, what I'm talking about, we kind of got away from the political talk, but it kind of has something to do with, you know, kind of a political, ethical dilemma, if you will. I have a business, and I have come to find out that one of the employees, well, I obviously know that they probably partake in nefarious activities that they don't want me to know about. But when, you know, going by one of my businesses and just trying to, you know, do the whole look around and seeing everything is running properly, I came across the television that's in the employees section. And up in the television area was a small amount of what seems to be marijuana and a smoking device. And I believe I know the culprit because he's made, you know, kind of vague references towards the consumption of marijuana, you know, how these kids, I mean, the man I suspect of doing it is about, you know, I think he's about 25 years old.
Yeah.
And you see, the thing about it is that he is a good employee, and I've looked in his records. You know, he's never been late. He's never had a problem with him. You know, as a matter of fact, there's been nothing but good things said about him. I've asked the employees about him many times, and you know, because I've always had my eye on him. But at this point, at this juncture, I believe it's him. Because he's the only one that's made references openly, you know, in my presence to marijuana. Now, what has me concerned is that if it's in a general vicinity like the television area, could this mean that every employee that's working at this establishment is partaking in this activity whenever they go out and take a break? And this is what's concerning me, and I don't know whether to just confront them and, you know, read them the riot act. I mean, you know, scare the bejesus out of them or what, and then have them continue to work just to not take a loss so I won't have to try to go out and get another employee and retrain the employee. I mean, all that is time and money. I hate to sound like a pure capitalist, but hey, this is America. Or just firing them and going the whole procedure and possibly taking the loss based on a small amount of marijuana and a device. Now, John's bringing up some good points that I should just fire the man on the spot, and that's all there is to it. Ozone, at first he was saying that maybe I should just confront the man and just, you know, try to yell at him and scream at him and tell him he'll never do it again, not around the business, that sort of thing, and probably give him a chance. If you're listening, I want to hear more perspectives on this. Give me a call, 646-652-4869. what in the blue hell should I do? I've got it right here. It's a small amount of marijuana. I wouldn't even, like I said, maybe a couple of joints at best. And then I've got some smoking device that obviously has been used. The hell do I do?
Is there a chance that it's not his, that it's someone else's?
I think it's pretty much his. He's the youngest at this establishment, first of all. Secondly, he's made references like, I'll be at the establishment. He's just trying to build rapport. Trying to kiss ass, so to speak, that sort of thing. And he's made he's made a couple of references to the fact that when referencing this, because I smoke cigars, you see, and he's made a suggestion on whether or not the cigars was really placed with tobacco and not something else, and he's made references in that nature.
You know what, though, Ghost? Let me tell you something. Just this being in your business could be a legal thing for you. Under the state forfeiture laws in many states, if the cops want to bust your chops, they could even take your business over something like that, just having a small amount, depending how many ounces it is. I think you're playing with fire here. I think when you're 25 years old, I would understand if you said to me, this is a kid, he's 15, 16, 17, maybe 18. But you outgrow those crazy phases, but this guy, from what you're saying, has not outgrown this, and this is going to cause you liability, and it's going to cause you a lot of problems in the future. For all you know, more people are involved. I would sit down with everybody, or I don't trust that manager, because he should have caught this.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. If I fire this young man, I'm going to have to fire this manager, because obviously the manager should have known about it. It was in the vicinity of the general lunch and break area for the employees. It was actually right there by the TV. TV is up some ways there.
This portends to future disastrous things. Is there any way to transfer these people? Do you have another business you could transfer the manager to and transfer a new manager in there?
Well, I mean, that's a possibility too, but then again, I don't think that's possible at this point, because these operations aren't running that poorly, if you will. I mean, they're running rather pleasantly.
And they would run even more pleasantly if people weren't high working there.
Well, I could agree to that, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like, I'm taking losses. I mean, it's been very good amidst, what I feel is we're in an economic recession.
Okay.
And the thing about it is I agree that, I could probably find a worker that would be more than willing to fulfill that obligation of being an employee. The problem is that there is time and effort and money invested in trying to retrain an employee to, be that well-oiled run machine that you have with an experienced employee group.
Okay, I have another one for you. How about when you hire your employees, do you make them sign a drug testing clause?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then what you do...
But the bad part about it is that the damn drug testing, I mean, it's literally like $75 a person.
Okay, well...
And you see, I can only do it randomly, like I suggested. But you see, they've got so much. There's a black market in beating drug tests that it really doesn't matter. I mean, the whole.
If you walk in cold and you say, okay, everybody line up, you go into the bathroom and everybody fill up their little cup, and then you have them tested. There's no way to get out of that. I know about the products that you talk about. I remember them when I was a kid, and they got even more. Now, like if you tell them I'm going to do a drug test tomorrow, they'll go out, buy these products, take them, and then they'll
Absolutely.
check out clean. But if you walk in there cold, without anybody knowing that you're going, just the same way you did, and say, okay, folks, everybody's getting randomly drug tested today. That way everybody's equal. My friend, I bet you're going to catch a bunch of people, and then it's going to be, up to you to decide if you're going to let these people go. Me, I take this politically. You said this was ethical. To me, this is political. Drugs, regardless of which ones you use or which ones people use, have been used by the left and the progressives to dumb down and destroy America. And I don't know. I take this.
Well, let me ask both of you. Ozone, you first. You've been kind of quiet. Have you ever smoked marijuana?
Yes.
How about you, John?
I tried it when I was I believe, 14. My friends had some, and I took a puff, and it just didn't appeal to me at all. As a matter of fact, I coughed, I almost vomited, and I said, this is not happening, This is just...
Because I've never, ever tried it, and I just want to know why, because it's not the first time I've had this problem. Not with this person in general, but in business, you're going to have a lot of problems. You have alcoholics.
Yeah.
You're going to have,
people robbing you. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe me, I've been there, done that. But I just don't understand. I mean, because you run into a lot of marijuana cases, and at this point, it's like, okay, well, what motivates someone to smoke marijuana? And to continue to do so, from what I understand, it's a depressant. It kind of makes you lazy. It kind of makes you hungry or something of that nature. Ozone, have you smoked it more than once?
Unfortunately, I've smoked it more than most.
Really? Now, what is it? What's the, I guess, what's the chase, if you will?
Well, it's really when something is missing in somebody's life. If somebody has some kind of problem and they can't deal with these drugs, all of them basically provide an escape. Instead of dealing with the problem, these drugs help escape. You use the drug, and all of a sudden, you're not worried about the problem. I don't know exactly. I never used it till I was about 25. Never smoked, never did anything. I was a kid, like a mother's dream kid. Always working and good in school, never did anything wrong. 25. I started working in my family business where I was paid minimum wage. My brothers overworked me, and they wanted the business for themselves. A lot of pressure. My father died. That was about 10, 11 years ago. And then I felt like I was stuck, and I started to smoke. A friend said, let's smoke on the weekend. I never bought it. Then I started to say, hey, maybe I'll buy some for myself so I don't have to always rely on my friends. Started smoking slowly, started smoking every day, then left to work, and I've been smoking basically ever since.
Oh, so you're still smoking?
Yeah.
Really? Well, this is interesting. No, I'm not chastising you for it there, Ozone. I mean,
I know what I did. I know what I do. I mean, I'm open to talk about it.
What do you think, John? Did you know Ozone Puff the Magic Dragon?
No, but let me tell you something. In my case, I was 14. I think I was a freshman in high school or something like that. My friends had it. It was like a peer pressure thing. I tried it, and like I said, I tried it one time. And it wasn't like I smoked the whole amount or anything. I just took like a puff. And, man, let me tell you, I don't know what was in that thing, but let me tell you, I thank the drug dealer who sold them whatever that was because it got me so sick. In other words, when I got home, I was vomiting. I don't know if this was cut with some other kind of drug. You're 14, you're a kid.
Sure.
And, man, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I never got the urge for it. I never got the desire for it. But you know what, Ozone, there's some people, Ozone, that I met in my life that could smoke every day. They could smoke, 20 bowls a day and function perfectly. And then I know, people that they started smoking. Next thing they went to crack. Next thing they went to heroin or they went to meth. Or it's really a gateway drug for some.
Well, I had a debate about this on a previous show some time back, and I'm of the persuasion that the reason it's the gateway drug is because of the demonization of the war on drugs on marijuana in general. Now, I'm not justifying the consumption of marijuana. I'm just suggesting that, I remember commercials when it was suggested in the commercial that some kids OD'd after smoking a little pot. I don't know if you remember that commercial in general.
Yes, I do.
And you see, it was that demonization that kind of, at first it did scare, shock and awe, so to speak, the youth from participating in it. But once they smoked marijuana, and from what I understand about marijuana, I know it's not it's not a drug to keep people on the prime directive, so to speak. But it's definitely not something that's comparable to the narcotics that are listed in the same category as it. And I think that by demonizing it so much, and then once the kids, because the kids always are exposed to marijuana first before any other narcotic, unless they're in a household that consumes another drug.
I'll give you a good example, Ghost, of what I'm talking about. I had a friend, I'll call him John. Let's call him John. And he went, started smoking marijuana with that little crew, with that little group of people. The same people that, they offered it to me, hey, try it out or whatever, let's go out. All right. Well, he never stopped. He continued and continued, and then started using like powdered heroin, LSD, ended up using crack. And I remember, I'll never forget this. This is my sophomore year in high school. Crack had just come out, about 82, 83. He comes running up to me one day. I'll never forget this. It stays in my mind vividly. And he's like, Johnny, you got any money? And I'm like, man, do I have any money? Are you kidding me? Because, look at me, bro. You know me, money. Get out of here, bro. My parents work 20 jobs and I don't have a job. I'm in high school, bro, money. And you know what? Thinking back, I should have given him the $5 I had in my pocket. I should have given him the money. Ghost, you know what this man did? He was 17 years old. He went about 2 blocks away, saw this little old lady crossing the street, took a hammer that he had or some kind of metal object, bludgeoned this poor woman to death to steal her purse because she wouldn't give him the purse. She was fighting him, and he kept on striking her in the head. She fell on the ground. She died from a hemorrhage to the brain. Do you know how much money was in that wallet, in that purse?
Probably like $10.
No, Ghost, $3. There were $3. He killed this woman for $3. He got life in prison. And you know what I do? Every year, he writes me. I'm one of the few people that, whatever. And it's such a waste of a life because he was a good kid. Like I came up with him. I grew up with him.
Yeah.
And he turned into an animal. And the gateway drug for him was marijuana. In other words, I don't think if he would have been exposed, number one, to the ghetto lifestyle that we had, number two, to the availability and the ease to get the drugs, I don't think he would have turned out like that. You understand what I'm saying? I think everything came together in like a perfect scenario for this guy to end up 17 years old, and he was just old enough to be tried as an adult. He was like 17 and a half or something. Life in prison, no parole.
So, Ozone, do you think that you're on that slippery slope into becoming a crackhead?
No.
I'm just joking, man.
It's been a while. It's been 10 years, and I've done once. One time we went up to Binghamton University, me and my friend, to visit some other friends, and someone had some kind of acid tab or something.
No.
And we did that and I did it once, and for 3 days, I was messed up in the head. 3 days, and then me and my friend we said to each other, we can never do it again, because when we were coming down after 3 days, we were like, we should do that again. And then we made a pact, we can't do, and I won't do it again, because I really got scared at how fast I wanted to do it again. And luckily, I've never done anything again, neither has he. Besides marijuana.
The extent of your drug experience is marijuana and acid?
That's the only one time I did anything else. That was just one time. Other than that, I never did anything else.
Ghost, what's your opinion of this? And Ozone, you tell me, I'd like to hear your opinion on this also. Ghost, do you remember an actor back in the 70s named John Belushi?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, listen, I was coming up at that time, and I was a high schooler, teenaging kid, and he was one of my idols. In other words, I was in that age when I was interested in, movie stars and all. Everybody goes through that stage,
Sure.
Sports stars, stuff like that. And I think one of the reasons I never again experimented wasn't so much because of my friends, but because of his overdose and his death. And there was also another man, and every generation has their rock and roll heroes and stars. And I used to love this new band out of England. It was crazy music. Now you look back at it, it wasn't as bad as it was back then. It was called the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
And there was this crazy guy with a mohawk and, colored
You're talking
red.
about Sid Vicious?
Sid Vicious. And I remember he died, I want to say I remember the date. It was like February 2nd or something, of 79. And I was like, holy cow. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow. Like, people just dropping dead left and right because of drugs. And then it's kind of funny that you mentioned ozone, the tablets or whatever. There was a kid in my neighborhood who took one of those tablets. I was like in 7th grade. I'll never forget this. He got on top of the 6-story tenement housing up in Spanish Harlem. And, man, we were screaming at him. I remember I came running, people screaming at him, get down, get down. And he thought he could fly, but he couldn't. And he just threw himself off of that thing and splattered. And I'll never forget, stuff like that stays with you. I'll never forget the look on his mother's face. And then my mother came running and just, hurried me into the house, me and my little sister, because we were just, like, standing there, like, traumatized. But this is, I could understand that. But in the neighborhoods that I grew up in, in New York City and Harlem, Spanish Harlem, and those neighborhoods, man, it was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. You know what I'm saying? It was brutal. It wasn't like, hey, let's smoke a joint. I mean, no, that led to, hey, let's snort some, cocaine, or hey, let's, inject some heroin. And you saw people, Ghost, when crack first came out, I'll never forget this. There were all kinds of people in my high school, whatever. And we had a kid. I was a junior. We used to call him El Gordo. El Gordo, he was fat. Means the fat one in Spanish. It was like a nickname. Oye, Gordo, what's up, this and that. Now, we had lunch, and right after lunch, we had gym. And that's the way it was. It was whacked. It was crazy like that. Because nobody wanted to do any kind of gym right after lunch. You just eat lunch. So we all lined up, and we had to wear, shorts and gym gear and stuff like that. It was inside a building. We didn't go out. And I remember the Gordo had gone out, and in the schoolyard, like behind the little thing, he started smoking, crack rocks. We stand up, and we're standing while they're taking roll. And all of a sudden, man, the Gordo just collapses in the middle of the class, and blood starts coming out of his mouth. And he had a massive, heart attack from smoking that crack. Man, I'll never forget that. I mean, people were crying, people were freaking out. I mean, imagine this. I mean, this is the world that I grew up in. So, when I think of drugs, even marijuana, I think back to that one little experience that I had, which was minimal. I mean, I didn't smoke the whole thing. I just took a puff. They were just passing it around or whatever. And it got me so sick. And then I saw all these people, including people that, when you were a kid, you were looking up to them, movie stars and music stars and all kinds of people dropping dead. And then actually watching people, fly off buildings, have heart attacks at the age of, I don't know how old we were, 16, 17, in the middle of a gym because they were smoking crack. I mean, this is bad. So it just
it sounds pretty rough.
Yeah, it was something that I never equated with success. I always equated that with total bad luck and total self-destruction. But then again, like I said, I know individuals in my business dealings and things that I do. I know, and I have students, and I know that they're high. In other words, I could tell because I grew up around it.
Sure.
I could just look at you and know that you're, smoking rocks, or you're smoking this, or you're smoking. I know, meth. If you're smoking meth, whatever, you're itching, you're scratching. Man, it's crazy, and it's just horrible. It's just a horrible thing. But there's some people that I know. I know one person in particular that I do business with, who smokes products every day, and this person functions. And, does whatever they do, for a living or whatever. And it's amazing to me because just the level of the amount or whatever that they're using, it has to be powerful because after a certain amount of time, they have to, up the dosage or whatever. I don't know how this person's walking around. Their heart hasn't exploded.
No, but after a while, you can do a lot more than other people.
Yeah, that's what I figured talking to this individual because, I remember one time the individual said to me, Johnny, what are you gonna, do? Because we were by their business or something. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this and this. And I was like, what? You're going to do what? Oh, you didn't know I smoked? I'm like, nah. I suspected your eyes are always red and you always look, tired. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Some people could handle it, but some people, it's just like their path to a living, hell, to a living thing. There was a girl ghost. If you notice, when you do your show, I'm wide awake. I do most of my work at night. And I go out into the streets at night. And I do business in the streets, in the business that I'm in. And there was a beautiful girl, absolutely stunning. This little girl was absolutely beautiful. In other words, she could have been a model, anything. I mean, this girl, any man that looked at this girl would have thought, wow, this girl has it going on. I mean, she was one of those head turners. Well, she would come up and she would always be like, Johnny, what are you doing? Give me $5, give me $2. I want to get into the club. I want to do this. I'm like, girl, you should be home sleeping. What are you doing out here in the street at this time? Well, it turned out that she started going to the clubs. They turned her on to marijuana first. And from there, she got on prescription drug painkillers. And then from there, she started smoking meth. And if you look at this little girl 2 years later, it's like looking like her face ghost. I mean, this girl's what now? I met her on the street when she was about 16. So I would say she's about 18 now. Her body shape looks about the same. But her face looks like if she's 25. In other words, she has lines. And plus, because of the drug addiction, she scratches her face, she scratches her arms, and she has, like, open sores. Buddy, this is horrible. This is like for Halloween. Every time I see this little girl, and I feel bad for her. Now she comes up to me, and she's like, Johnny, give me $5. Oh, no, this is the price for whatever drug they use over there. It's $7.
Unreal. Hold on, we've got another caller here. Let's see if they want to chime in on it. 416 area code, you're on the air.
Hey, buddy.
What's going on?
What are we talking about, marijuana? Drugs?
Yeah.
What about them? I just heard.
Yeah. Well, I've recognized that person. I think she was on your show, right, Ozone?
Yes.
Anyway,
who was that?
I don't know. I mean, I think that it's somebody who gets too close to a cheap bottle of hooch, and I don't know if she means harm. I just think that she needs to, maybe calm down on the narcotics or intoxicants that she's consuming, if you will.
Well, Ghost, to finish my story, make a long story short, you know what this little girl's doing now for a living? Take a guess. She's doing prostitution downtown.
Oh.
And it's the saddest thing in my, every time I see her, she comes up to me, she's like, Johnny, give me $7. I'm like, girl, I know what you're going to do with that. Like they have hot dog stands. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm like, look, if you're hungry, let's walk to the hot dog stand. I'll buy you a hot dog or a hamburger. I'll buy you a soda. Oh, no, just give me the money. Just give me the money. I'm like, no.
Oh, man.
And it's disgusting to see. So, I mean, it's sad, And when you deal in the streets, when you're dealing with different individuals in the business that I do, it's brutal. It's brutal to see some of the people and how quickly they deteriorate on the street.
Hey, Ozone, do you think you're headed down that road, buddy?
No, I'm not. I will never use anything else, any hardcore drugs. But I've seen people using it. I've seen people doing it in New York City. When I go out, I used to go out often, and everyone's doing cocaine. I mean, friends are friends in my car. All of a sudden, I see them doing cocaine in the clubs. Everywhere there's people. The drugs are everywhere, and the pushers are pushing it. They
push it. Ozone, you're absolutely right. Any club in Manhattan that I went to when I was coming up, man, it was like a pharmacy in there. I mean, you know what they used to do, Ozone? I don't know if they still do that anymore, is that they would just come up to you and say, yo, man, why don't you try this sample? My name is this. You know, oh, you don't use? Why don't you try this? It's like, here's a sample. You know, give me a call when you want some more. Ghost is unbelievable, Ghost.
You know, I've never, ever participated in activity where I was exposed to hard narcotics. I've never tried marijuana. I've never tried coke. I never tried nothing. I drink every now and then. I like to consume an alcoholic beverage. I like cognac. Cognac's great. I also like some pretty good beer. But I've never tried it. And, you know, once again, you know, I caught this this person here. I don't know if it's him or the whole damn crew out there at that establishment, but I definitely found some marijuana. It's right here. It's just a couple of joints worth, and with a smoking device, which is a pretty weird smoking device that I've never seen before either. And I'm getting two perspectives. You know, I can see why Ozone wants me to give him a break. And John over here is saying I should just cut him off at the pass.
Cut him off at the pass.
If you want, you can send me the drugs and the thing. If you want me to figure out like what exactly it is, you can.
Yeah, now then you'll get federal charges on top of the state charges. Don't try that. Don't try that. Oh,
yeah, I mean, let me tell you. I mean, it smells kind of weird. This little plant here, you know. I mean, people are actually buying this garbage.
You know something? You know something though. You know something, Ghost. It's kind of funny. You mentioned the war on drugs. If you study history, you know most people don't know this. We just had President's Day. You know what George Washington grew on his plantation right up in Arlington?
Yeah, he grew hemp.
He grew hemp.
Yep.
I mean, this is something that they used. I mean,
as a matter of fact, the United States Constitution was written on hemp paper.
Yeah. So I mean, it's something that was used, but I don't know. I remember I one time I talked to my grandfather, and I asked him. I said, because I don't remember this in Cuba. I was just a little boy. I said, Grandpa, did they have a lot of marijuana in Cuba? He said, yeah, it grew everywhere, but just everywhere, just naturally it grew. I said, well, what did people use it for? He said, well, there were very few people who used it to get high like they do here in the United States. That was a rarity, and it was something that was extremely frowned upon. But mostly it was used like medicinally. When somebody was dying of cancer or, something like that, they would make like teas with it, or I don't know what they would do to, and put it on their bodies with some heat on them or something. I don't know. Some kind of...
Well, actually... one thing I think it should be used for is for commercial use. I understand that 1 acre of marijuana, or hemp, can produce just as much paper as, 10 acres of trees or something like that?
You know something, and I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm really not an expert on any of this. I also believe that there is a form of hemp or a form of marijuana that could be grown without the chemical that gets you high. In other words, they could grow hemp. I think I read something about that because there's something else, it's kind of greasy. And they were talking about how much ethanol you can get out of hemp. And
Really?
You just mentioned, you need 10 acres of trees to make the same amount of paper 1 acre of hemp does. So they were thinking, well, maybe we could grow hemp and make some ethanol. It was an ethanol article that dealt with hemp. And I thought that was very curious because you were mentioning in the beginning, what do we produce or what can we produce? Myself, just as a person living in the United States, watching all of our money, today I went to Walmart and I try to buy just American products, but that's very hard to do, Ghost.
It really is hard to do.
It really is. My daughter, my birthday passed recently. I told you my daughter's in boot camp. And she wrote me a letter and she sent me a check and said, Daddy, I want you to go and get you some clothes or get you a shirt or just buy something so you could remember me. Of course, I didn't cash the check. But I said, you know what? I need to buy some pants or whatever because I have a certain uniform I wear when I'm working. And that's usually what I wear when I get home. I just change it to my house clothes or whatever. But I went to Walmart, and I'm going through the aisles, and I needed certain products and certain things. And man, it took me forever to find some American products that were of the things that I wanted to buy. And I think with that same concept, you mentioned the $600 rebate, the $1,000 rebate. The average family that's going to go, let's say, to Walmart, middle-class family, lower class, whatever, that wants to go get a deal, all that money is going to end up in communist China.
Yeah, of course. I've talked about that many times.
You were talking about that.
It's obvious that this is a slippery slope down into communist China-style government. I mean, this is very scary.
Yeah,
the government giving us money.
It is, because they made it $1,000. Why didn't they make it $50,000 a family? Anyway, they're borrowing the money from the communist Chinese themselves. But going back to the point, I would rather, let's say my gallon of gas, I went to gas up right now before I got home, because I have to head out into the street now again, was $3.17 a gallon. And that was the cheap gasoline. Now, I would rather pay an American farmer, let's say $4 a gallon, if it's like an ethanol or a biodiesel blend, knowing that that money would stay with that American farmer. In other words, instead of shipping it to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or any of these people that, hate us, Iran or any of these other places, at least some of that money stays here. And then the farmer could buy more equipment, maybe expand their production. Instead, I think that's part of the solution. I'm not saying that's going to be the whole solution to the energy problems that we're having, but it's better than nothing.
Sure.
And also, stuff like wind power, solar. I would even go for, nuclear, but the nuclear plants that I would build wouldn't be anywhere near a major city, like maybe out in the desert somewhere,
sure.
Something like that.
So are you of the persuasion that green jobs, like a lot of these candidates are touting, are the future of possibly spawning innovation in America?
You know something? I think biodiesel production and also the ethanol production. One thing that bothers me, Ghost, and I agree with some of the things that they say as far as that's concerned, because there's so many things that we can do as a nation, and there's so many jobs that can become available. Electricity is transmitted through the power grids. So technically, we could be producing power here and selling it to Canada or Mexico or wherever. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And keeping the money for ourselves, for American workers in America, instead of exporting this money overseas. Now, here in the United States, because of the farm lobby and all of these things, you have a very ineffective method of producing ethanol, which is corn. One of the most effective methods of producing ethanol is sugarcane.
I know that sugarcane is actually is what got the Brazilian junta energy independent.
Yeah. And if you go to Brazil today, you could drive the roads and never, use gasoline. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they use the bagasse, which is the stuff that they throw out from the sugarcane once they get the sugar out, as part of the thing. So it's just like recycled. It produces jobs for the Brazilians, and instead of those billions of dollars being exported to the Arab nations, it stays in Brazil. And if you look at the economic prosperity, Brazil is a pretty, prosperous nation for a South American nation.
It really is. I mean, unfortunately, they're under a military junta, but, these people are obviously putting their heads in the right places, because they are independently energy sufficient. I mean, they don't need to import any kind of oil or anything like that. Everything is produced in Brazil, and I think that's a great model. I mean, granted, once again, it is a military junta, but you have to look at the model on what motivated their people to spawn such innovation, and you're right about their economic prosperity.
Yeah, compare them to all of these other places. And what I look at, and I'm a one-track mind. My mind is with Castro all the time. When we started producing massive amounts of ethanol, both Fidel Castro and Chavez came out publicly and denounced ethanol production. Now, as soon as they said that, I got interested, because whatever they're against, then I have to support. So I started reading about ethanol, and let me tell you something. One of the things that you're going to see is once the Castro regime collapses in Cuba, I think Cuba will become like Brazil, because it was the number one, at one time before the communists, it was the number one exporter of sugar in the world.
It really was.
And you know what? That's going to do two things. We have a sugar industry here in the United States that's heavily subsidized with taxpayer money. But I think Cuba's going to become energy self-sufficient, just like Brazil did. And I think that's going to help the economies of both countries because they're going to have more money instead of having to import oil to buy American products such as, cars and toasters and whatever we can sell them. So I think everybody's going to benefit from that kind of relationship. And I was hoping Mexico, believe it or not, would do the same thing because the main staple in Mexico obviously is corn, a corn product, tortillas, this and that.
Yeah.
And I was hoping maybe the government of Mexico would get its native people to go ahead and plant more corn to produce more ethanol. So, number one, the money stays in Mexico, and also you would support this, Ghost. So do the people.
Absolutely.
And they have a way to make an honest living, a good living, and be prosperous in their own nations without having to come here illegally or whichever way. So I don't know. I'm watching all this stuff, but let me tell you something. Today the IAEA came out and said that Iran is still developing the nuclear program. Everybody's telling them, they have to stop, and they're thumbing their noses at the world. I see a situation developing, either this year or with whoever becomes president or whatever, where either Israel or the United States will be forced to take concrete action against the Iranian government, and we're going to have a replay of 79 as far as the oil crisis is concerned.
Oh, I believe it. Believe me, I see this coming. If it's not on a military front, I see it on an economic front because I from what I've read, the Iranians are only going to trade oil now in the euro.
Yeah, and you know who else was talking about that a couple of months ago, and I think they're going to go in it together, Chavez. And that's to lower the use of the dollar internationally, which will lower our currency even more. I mean, this is all planned, Ghost. This is not just, we wake up one day and it's a fait accompli. This is something that, there's people behind the scenes sitting down making deals to destroy our economy from the exterior as well as from the interior. Every single time I gas up, I cringe. I really do, because those dollars that I earn, I know are going to end up in Saudi Arabia, Iran, Chavez, the oil-producing nations. And, man, it makes me cringe. It hurts me. It really does.
It really is pretty sad, But, we're about to wind up here. There's 4 minutes left, and I just want to go ahead and let y'all promote your shows out here, and I'm going to go ahead and close out.
Okay, well, my show is Cuba Compagnoni. It's on Sundays at 4 p.m. Central Time. Check us out.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John.
God bless you, my brother. Bye-bye, Ozone.
You have a good one.
Yeah.
Ozone, go ahead, man.
This is the Ozone Political Intervention. Sign up to the RSS or add me to a friend any time of the day. I can pop up. Thanks for having me, Ghost.
Thanks a lot, Ozone.
All right.
You have a good one. Well, pretty interesting conversation, folks. I mean, we started off the program talking about the Democratic debates and how there was a lack of going for the jugular on Clinton's part. And I don't underestimate the Clinton machine. I'm of the persuasion that as far as Hillary Rotten Clinton is concerned, it ain't over till the fat lady does sing. And let me tell you something. I think that we're underestimating the Clinton machine, and I still think they have a shot, whether they broker a deal at the convention or not. And then we talked about this unscrupulous scandal that's happening with John McCain about how he's banging lobbyists and the potential unethical practice behind that whole sexual liaison. So I'm telling you, folks, it's a very tasty news week here in the political world. I'm going to definitely be on tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to have the same amount of technical difficulties here on Blog Talk Radio like we have been. But look for a show here anywhere between the times tomorrow at about 7 p.m. to about 9 p.m. Central Time, anywhere in between that window. And you can check me out in the archives, too, folks. Get back to www.blogtalkradio.com. patreon.com/ghost. That's GHOST. Take a look at the archives. If you're ever bored one night, drinking a couple of beers, doing whatever it is, check us out in the archive. We'd really appreciate it. But like I said, folks, I don't really have a set base time anymore for this show. It's pretty much spontaneous. I want to get consistent, but every time I attempt to get consistent with the Blog Talk Radio Network, we're having technical damn difficulties. So if you're tired of the technical difficulties, write the Blog Talk Radio Network and tell them to take their Kentucky Fried Chicken grease thumb out of their ass, all right, and maybe put it in their mouth, and that's the type of bad taste that we're getting as Blog Talk Radio hosts that are actually providing content out here. But anyway, I don't want to go into that, folks. I just want to say that us as conservatives, we need to come together. This is a deal breaker, this ridiculous sexual unethical scandal that John McCain is involved in. It's a deal breaker. It could prohibit him from actually being the nominee for the Republican Party. And I think the Republicans need to come together, and we need to figure out who can be a potential candidate that can actually win this election, that stands for true conservative Republican principles. Less taxes, less government in our faces, that sort of thing. Anyway, folks, I'm sorry for having such a late broadcast this evening. It's going into the 2 a.m. hour right now here in the Central Time Zone. But like I said, we had a lot of technical difficulties on BTR. I suggest put me on your favorites, get an RSS feed of my show. Do whatever it takes to keep up with us, folks. And shoot me some emails. Hook me up on your MySpace, myspace.com/ghostpolitics. All one word, no underscores. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in with me. I really appreciate your patronage. Long live the conservative movement and death to feminism. Thank you once again, folks.
Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan. Now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.